I just had to say a few words regarding democracy. Folks, for one thing, the most important thing in my view that I don't see around me, democracy needs a lot of free time for people to read, think, and the electorate has to have a lot of time to read and think and communicate to reach the right conclusion. It's basically communication and reasoning and reading and thinking are things that cause democracy to be successful. If you don't provide this situation for your electorate is going to be not well read, not very communicative, not well read, not well educated. Democracy can go, will not be democracy. You can still call it democracy, but it will no longer be democracy. I mean, if you would have told the ancient, the guys who came up with the concept of democracy, if you tell them that, yes, in 1,000 years or so, in a couple of hundred years, in 1,000 years or so, you guys are going to, in a couple of thousand years, democracy is going to be advertised like toothpaste on TV. The candidates are going to be advertised in very short segments with really short punchlines that we are for this, vote for this, or we are for that, vote for that. If you would have told the ancient Greek and the Romans who came up with the concept, they would have laughed because their concept of democracy was, a lot of reasoning between the individual citizens and not, a lot of advertising by powers who want to be. So this whole concept would not, to the ancient, Greek or Romans, this concept that is being executed as such, not with a lot of communication between citizens, but a lot of communication between centers of power and citizens. Centers of power who have money, who can advertise. That's where the center of power is, where the money is. Center of power gives out money and off to the races. Go advertise and, bring me your most electable candidate, and I give money, advertise, and you notice a lot of companies, corporations, actually donate to both parties. They're just hedging their bet. They know they have to give something because, they're going to have issues may come up, so they pay so issues won't come up. And so the paying goes on, and they pay usually both sides this exact same amount. Sort of like here, we have to pay this as corporation X, Y, or Z. Here we give, the parties expect the corporations to pay. Either through themselves, through third parties, as donation to CPAC, to BPAC, to DPAC. They never thought they would not call this system democracy. They would not call it democracy. They would say, okay, give it your own name, because democracy that we defined only works if citizens have a lot of free time. And the reason the Romans and the Greek citizens had a lot of free time was because they had a lot of slaves. Like usually 3 times their own population, citizens of Rome and citizens of Greece, 3 times their own population, they had slaves. So democracy worked for them because the slaves, they didn't have the right to vote, and they would free up the citizen's time so the citizen doesn't have to go work in the field himself or herself. Not even herself, only men. Pink-skinned men had the right to vote in, I guess, Rome and Greece, whatever. But the point is this, that both of the places that are the heart of democracy, that democracy was first practiced, both of these 2 places, there were places where they had 3 times the citizens, they had slaves. So basically, okay, citizens have time to sit, read, communicate, reason, every citizen. All these bathhouses that the Greek had, the Roman had, these are basically where people got together and reasoned. That's a good place to reason if you don't have internet, or if you don't have you don't have a church or a bar as such. People would go to bathhouses and sit and reason for hours. And the point is this, that you cannot have a democracy with unreasonable people. Unreasonable people cannot have democracy. And unreasonable means people who don't read, don't think, don't communicate, don't try to reason, don't understand reasoning. If this is the case within your population, it doesn't matter if you're Uganda or you're doesn't matter where you are. If you're Uganda or you're in Mexico, if the local population, or Uncle Sam, why not? If the local population is not very involved, which they can't be, the local population is not well educated. You can imagine any country you like. If the local population is not well educated, doesn't have enough free time on their hand to reason with each other, and the only thing they see are basically a few advertisements from, sources with money, who have the money and the time to, go into advertisement, make advertisements for what they have to say. That means that nobody spends money for no reason. People who spend money, it's not out of goodwill. It's sort of like, as in case of, let's say, Coca-Cola, they have to donate money to both campaigns because they supposedly this is the system now, and they have to give money to promote one idea or the other. Up to this point, the corporations rarely picked any idea over another. As long as it doesn't hurt their bottom line, they can go for both. So corporations most usually donate to both sides. So this whole paradigm of democracy, being citizens communicating with each other, having the time and the information and the knowledge and the manners to sit down and communicate with each other, if that's not available, you don't have a democracy. Simple. You don't have a democracy if that is not available. That idea of citizens having a lot of time to read and learn and read and learn and communicate and reason until they get it right. They reach the correct decision. So they don't have this time, this luxury of time is not available. If your citizens don't have the luxury of time, you don't have democracy. You have popularity contests. Who can spin better? Who can, talk from both sides of their mouth? Who can, who's beholden to whom? The whole game becomes who's beholden to whom. Democracy only works if it's, either direct democracy, have every citizen vote on every issue. Just basically have a website and say, okay, every citizen register in this website and make a vote on every issue, whether be it the state or the federal. You can, with the invention of internet, you can actually have direct democracy, which I think it would work a lot better. Direct democracy would, at least we can do it like that. Because this middleman who is the representative is usually bought off. If the democracy takes a wrong turn and money gets involved, that middleman between what the people want and what the rich are willing to give, the middleman is the politician. And the politician keep promising the people a lot of things, but at the same time the politician knows in this format of democracy, the politician also knows that the reason he's there is because these rich people donated money. These rich people donated money to this politician, that's why he's sitting in that chair, but he's making promises to poor people. So, and every time the person that sits on the seat is also beholden to the big money. Every one of them. Because by the time it goes to the final two, there's a lot of money has been spent. So these guys already are beholden. Beholden means basically, hey, dude, remember you were running, we donated this much. Could you fix this for us? It's nothing, it's just costing us a lot of money in this part of this regulation. Could you fix it for us? Because, remember we paid your campaign. Now, if you fix this, we call it even. We want to be even, right? Because you want us to make another donation next year, right? If you want another donation next year, fix this, then we talk. It's as simple as that. The whole idea has the middleman politician, just for the sake of having that job and having a notoriety, I guess. I don't know what is the pull here. What is the pull for people to be attracted to this kind of being representative. I don't know what's the pull, but the point is this: in every system, if there are no checks and balances in place, really hard checks and balances in place, democracy is going to is very delicate. It's going to go out of bounds, as it has basically the cure for this is not that, and you can tell from the way things are going. I mean, for example, you can tell when a country like, let's say, Uganda, could be United States as well, but let's say Uganda. If a country like Uganda is spending 10 times its spending on education, it's spending on weapons, imagine Uganda and imagine his education budget of Uganda, how much it is. And if you look at that and you say the education budget of the education is this much, is let's say 100, then the defense budget is 7,000, example, or 10,000. Defense budget 10,000, education 100. So you're then you say, oh, so maybe this is your problem. If you educate your people, keep your people educated, if you take that money, maybe you don't have to spend that much money in defense. Maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe if you educate your people, they can reason better, and maybe, they can reason better. Maybe you don't have to go to war every Wednesday. Or every day leaving your house, or go to war in this land and that land and the other land, and try to make life difficult for everybody. Folks, this is mad. This is not democracy. This is corporations allowing the peasants to have a go at which one of these two look more presentable to you peasants. Which one of these two fools? I'm imagining that the CEO of Coca-Cola is talking to himself, and this is what he's saying. Hey, you fools, you peasants, which one of these two fools, the representative of the two main parties, which one of these two fools do you feel looks more representative? Looks. We are going based on looks. Reagan looked the part. Yes, of course he did. But he was an actor. What do you expect? Folks, this is the thing. You can two answers. Either pass laws to tighten the qualification for who can take this job. The job of representing, either at state level or federal level. Just bring up the bar. You can bring up the bar and say, okay, if you want to be any kind of representing for anything, if it's an elected office, you must have at least this much education. Let's say a master's degree. Any kind of state level, local level, elected office, you gotta have a master's degree. We don't care in what subject, but master's degree. If you want to be the representative of the group of people whoever wants you to represent them, at least have a master's degree. If you want to have a federal, become any sort of a federal representative of your people, you must have at least a PhD, at least one PhD. Senators and above, senators, vice president, and president, at least 2 PhDs. We don't want dummies representing, a bunch of other dummies. We don't want to do that. At least allow the dummies to pick a smart representative, an honorable representative. I say honorable, I mean it, because education is something that, because it doesn't, because it's delayed gratification. Education, because it's delayed gratification, only very smart people, understand it, like it. Dummies don't read, because it's delayed gratification. Education is very, very delayed gratification. The dummies are not really interested. They want to party. So you do want that. in your representative. You do want your representative to, be not be interested in the party, not be a party boy like George W. Bush or his father. Frat boys, party boys, guys who are really not interested in the information part of their educational upbringing, but in the party aspect of it. So you're going from George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, who are the chess club of their colleges, very intellectual guys, those representing the public, to frat boys, actors, golfers, if you can call Trump a golfer, who look the part. Folks, it's that simple. It's like, at least higher the bar. Say, hey, if you want to have any local representative, you must have a master's degree in anything. Doesn't matter if it's even if it's your blacksmith. You have a master's degree in blacksmith. Somebody gives us in writing that they believe that you're a master at this. Means you have followed something in your life, not just a party boy, which seems to be these recent presidents of Uganda have been a bunch of party boys. It was in the news. I'm not making it up. It's in the news that Mr. Bush, actually, up to recently, before becoming interested in politics, actually used cocaine, and he had alcohol problem and a cocaine problem. What do you call that? A party boy. So the peasants had to pick between him and what? Who was he running? Al Gore. Al Gore is the guy from the chess club, the guy who at that time he was talking about global warming. The chess club guy and the frat guy won. And before him, Reagan, the actor, won over the guy who actually done something in his life. I think Reagan won from, who did he won from? Carter he did it from. I'm not sure. But the point is this, the quality of representatives is going down, and everybody agrees about this, both on the Republican and Democrat side, but mostly the Republicans, the quality is coming way down. The quality is, because folks, you have neglected the education of your children. You have neglected the education, not just your children, my Republican friends. Here is a word. Here's a word, my Republican friends. I was thinking the other day, how does Mr. Mitch McConnell feel, or Mitt Romney, or any one of these representatives who have been senators for a while, who have been at the top level of federal and state executive or legislative bodies. So I was imagining to myself, when was the first time one of these guys got embarrassed when he was passing by and he overheard his own granddaughter or great-granddaughter, I don't know about their ages, one of these, old white dudes of the Senate who have been there for a while. One of these guys overhears, I'm sure this has happened many times, overhears her granddaughter, little Amy, blonde, blue eye, was repeating because the beat of the music is nice. So she likes rap, and she's repeating whatever the rapper is saying in the song, and she's got the earphones on, and she's repeating that, and she thinks she's alone. So the grandfather overhears this girl singing about his 12-inch penis. And I'm thinking that senator at that moment must have been really dumb to not realize where the fuck is this coming from. That he has to hear her granddaughter sing along to about her 12-inch penis. So, and then I thought, okay, who's responsible? It's very simple, Mr. McConnell. Teenagers, girls and boys, are attracted to the beat, to the rhythm. Now, if the brain that is creating that rhythm, if that brain is well educated, a lot of very uplifting, interesting stuff will come out. But if that brain is not educated, the beat will still come out. But the rapper would be singing about the only things he knows, which would be, his penis and his big position and lots of money. People sing about whatever they know. Just like people who write about whatever they know. So if you're not spending money in educating these little black kids who are going to become rappers, if you educate them, at least they be rappers who sing about things that really matter, are interesting, deep. But if you don't educate them, he's going to be still singing, he's still going to be rapping, but what he will be rapping about are things that you don't rather not hear about from your granddaughter singing along to whatever whatever lyrics that the rapper had to load on the beat. And I want to know, did that senator at that moment think that, maybe on the next bill I vote for more money for education of everybody, even the black kids, because I don't want to hear my granddaughter You're screwing it up, folks. Those who have been in politics for a long time understand that you're like let's say Mr. McConnell. You gotta understand, you being a representative of your people for a long time, the condition that your people are living in, the education that your local people are getting, you're like their father. You determine how much education your people back home should get. And that education means education of the little black kids too. All of them, but also little black kids, so the little black kids would not, they're going to be musicians anyway. If you educate them, you might hear nice stuff coming out of kids' mouths. It's that simple, folks. You are spending Uganda is spending too much money on defense and too little money on education, housing and health also, but education, health, now housing, maybe that can wait, but education, no, housing can't wait either. Folks, education, health, and housing is your responsibility towards your people. Protecting Chevron's assets in some shithole, it's not the responsibility. It's not you politicians' responsibility. Is not protecting Chevron's assets in a shithole, or assets that Chevron thinks they like to have in a shithole. Your first responsibility is towards your own citizens. Are they healthy, fed, sheltered, and are they getting the best education available? Period. Housing, education, health is your first responsibility of any representative of any kind of democracy. Now, if you can't do that, there is also direct democracy. Especially with the invention of such beautiful thing as internet, direct democracy is possible. If they can make banking secure on the internet, they can make direct democracy possible. They can securitize the lines and securitize the passwords, and they can make it work if they want to. We can have direct democracy. In this way, politicians would not be, feel obligated to vote against the interest of those people who paid for their position, who paid for their seat. This is a bad binder. Being a politician is, especially when the rich people get to choose who will be represent, it becomes a really interesting dynamics. This capitalism and democracy have created a very interesting dynamics in which the rich guy is the one who has to pay for the rich guy has to pay for the election of these motherfuckers, but these motherfuckers have to make promises to the poor people of, for, their hopes and dreams, how they're going to make their hopes and dreams come true. So making promises to poor people. So all the time, the politicians, unfortunately, in such system, all the time, the politicians are a little, it's a very uncomfortable position. It becomes a very uncomfortable position because you're getting paid by the guy who's, if you're supposed to protect his interest, the guy who's paying, well, his interest is in direct opposition to the interest of the people you're supposed to be representing. Because usually the rich guy is somehow, sucking the blood out of the poor. That's his interest is for this to continue. The rich guy's interest is to continue sucking the life out of the poor. That's how he got rich. He sucked the life out of the poor. The less wise. But we don't want only the wise to have a normal life in this world, do we? Or only the guys who are able to fool other people have a good life, and then those people who got fooled get the shaft, a lifetime of misery. Why? Aren't we beyond that? Be, aren't we beyond saying that, okay, if you're, handicapped, let's say mentally, the worst kind of handicap to have in this world is a mental handicap. So if you're mentally handicapped, I'm sorry, you just walk around and jump in the ocean whenever you got tired. That's how it has come down to. It's the mental asylum in sometimes in the 70s. I understand 70s or 80s the way I understand it. The mental asylums in the United States were slowly faded away. Now the crazies are there. Every society has a percentage of crazy. But if you take mental asylums away, what do you think is going to happen to the percentage that every society has? By closing them down, does it mean that you will not have mental patients anymore? And that's a lot of the mental patient doesn't necessarily means a dangerous person. It just means a person that cannot take care of him or herself. That's how a lot of the poor homeless people come about. People who don't have the cognitive capacity for some reason. Addiction could be one reason, that they can't think straight, and they're dependent on a substance and they can't think straight. Okay, haven't we as a society, as far as civility is concerned, haven't we reached the point of saying that, yeah, maybe we are responsible for people who can't take care of themselves, who happen to be born in our society? Aren't we at that point yet? I mean, how many more yachts needs to be sold before we think that, yeah, do we want to live in a society where, doesn't the guy with the yacht feel bad that, the guy, I don't know, teaching his children in school is not making enough money to, also enjoy life? I mean, the guy with the yacht he should be concerned that not everybody is enjoying themselves, because haven't we reached that level of civility? I mean, because folks, here's the thing. When I heard about the story of in what they call insurrection at the Capitol, I see the first thing came to my mind was storming of the Bastille. More or less, a version of it. Folks, and I was right. I just heard it on the news. Somebody else compared it to it. So, yeah, poor folks, politicians have been neglecting people, especially their education, their housing, their health. Of the people have been neglected. But a lot of money for some reason is going to defense. It's Uganda I'm talking about. Uganda. In terms of, in such a way that you would think that when they're spending 10 times on defense than what they're spending on education in Uganda, you would think they're trying to protect the chicken coop with laser weapons. You look at Uganda and you see how much how much is the expenditure on education and how much is the expenditure on defense or offense. Sometimes, many times, Uganda might be the culprit of attacking others. Or United States, all over the Africa and Middle East and Southeast Asia. The point is this. If you're spending 10 times on defense, Uganda, if you're spending 10 times more on defense than you're spending on education, it's like trying to protect a chicken coop with laser guided missiles. You got a chicken coop. You don't need laser guided missiles. Now make this chicken coop into a university. Make your citizens, Uganda, make your citizens well educated. Now you have instead of a chicken coop, you have a university to protect. Okay, then whatever is left over, you put it in defense. Whatever is left over after education, housing, and health, whatever is left over, people put in defense. You don't want to be you don't want to be defending a barn with laser-guided missiles. WTF? It's mad. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, why did they vote for, somebody who obviously could be, could be considered by some, not me, but by some, he could be considered a charlatan. Mr. T. So people don't understand how would people choose a charlatan like Mr. T over I don't like her either, but over somebody who at least knew how the job was done, what was expected in the job. At least we can give Clinton something. She knew what was expected in the job, what was expected of her. But why? Because people, have to be of such level to understand that, education is good, knowing stuff is good, and somebody who knows more should be elected over somebody who knows less. But people don't identify that much. When people are not well educated, don't identify with education, don't identify with information. The sheep vote for a sheep. Sheep will not vote, vote for me. Or sheep will not vote for you. Sheep will vote for a sheep. Chickens will vote for a chicken. Because that's what they understand. Chicken understand another chicken, so a chicken will vote for a chicken. People have to identify with someone who they vote for. Mean people vote for a mean person. They have to identify. Good people vote for a good person. Educated people vote for an educated person. Okay, that's in the long run. In the short run, please, this has to be done. Folks, if you want to save some kind of democracy, you gotta set a limit, minimum bar. You gotta say a minimum bar of entering any elected office at state level is a master's degree. Any elected office in a state level must have a master's degree. We don't care what. Must have a master's degree. Just the fact that for this guy, this is one of the guys for whom information, absorption of information, and critical thinking and response and finding a solution has become his second nature because he has educated himself to the level of a master at something. You need that in a representative. You need that, that kind of mentality. You need a mentality at high elected office because you're representing many people with many needs, and you gotta have a conscience. Frat boys don't have conscience. Frat boys, to have a conscience, you need to have, high cognitive ability. You need to be able to, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. To have that, to have conscience, that is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. That's a higher level of thinking than a cow who, fights with another cow and kills another cow to get the pussy. They do, when they fight, these horned animals, when they fight, one of the males may die of their injuries. Usually doesn't happen, but they may die over a pussy. So it is what it is. But we are beyond that. We are beyond that. So because of that, because we don't want horned animals representing us, because we don't want that, we have to set the limit. In Uganda, state level, at least a master's degree. Federal level, any candidate who wants to become a candidate for federal level elected office must have at least one PhD. Senators and above, at least 2 PhDs. President of the United States must have at least 2 PhDs, I think. And this is for the future. I think right now and up to now it has been all great. But in the future I'm talking about, it's a good idea to say, okay, this specific elected office, because it's very high and very information oriented kind of a job, you must be comfortable with information. And that is, you must be comfortable with a lot of reading and observing and regurgitating and finding solutions and observing information from people around you. A frat boy doesn't need to observe any kind of information. Frat boy has a buddy, a couple of buddies, and those buddies they put their head together and they move forward, and they won't change their mind ever again because they can only trust their buddies, because I guess they're buddies. But the whole thing about the whole gang of George W. Bush who came to office and took on an expedition on the other side of the planet, the whole idea behind that was basically a bunch of frat boys getting together and not really being interested in knowing the right information or making the right decision. Do you actually think if somebody with 2 PhDs was sitting on the seat that Mr. George W. Bush was sitting on, do you think that person with 2 PhDs would have gone into Afghanistan and Iraq? Do you really think that way? Do you really think that if somebody with 2 PhDs was sitting in a place where Mr. George W. Bush was sitting for the period that he was sitting, do you think this situation would have come about? Do you think this situation would have come about? Situation where, suddenly on an expedition across the planet with a lot of armored vehicles, we're gonna, torch this place down, but we're gonna get our man. Our man, you couldn't reach a deal with him. If you can, have it. Here's the thing. I love you, Uncle Sam, but here is the thing. If you say I have problem with dictators and torturers and killers and blah 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 and people who don't, who violate human rights, then you can't justify a bunch of your friends, Uncle Sam. A bulk of your friends cannot be justified. From Pinochet way back then to MBS right now, many of them, to Jordan, to all of these Arab shitholes, none are democracies, and they're all totalitarian, and they're all killers and maimers and rapers. We all know that. It's in the news. The guy just locked people up until they paid up. They're literally robbing each other. Whoever has the biggest penis robs the other ones. Highway robbery. And nobody said a peep. On the West, nobody made a peep. The Human Rights Watch, the French, the English, the German, nobody made a peep when it just came on the news that yes, the ruling family has imprisoned the lesser cousins in a 4-star hotel, but it's a 4-star hotel. Now they're raping them in that 4-star hotel, but it's a 4-star hotel. Basically, I think they raped them until they paid up. Literally. These are Arabs. They're Arabs. So, I'm not sure. The point is this, folks. Please, to make everything better, you have only two choices, my representative friends of Uganda or anywhere else in the world. If you really care about your people, you should write the rule yourself right now and pass it in such a way that would not apply to you. It will only apply to anybody coming after you. That they should have at least the master's degree if they want to become a candidate for an elected office at the state level, at least the master's degree. If they have a PhD and they become a state level representative, that's fine too. But at least the master's degree at the state level, and at least one PhD if they want to become, hold any elected federal office representing the state to the federation. They must at least have one PhD, and high office, senators and the presidents, at least 2 PhDs. Just be kind to yourself and pass such a law, and it's fine. Apply it for people who come after you. Whoever is elected right now in the office, they're fine as they are, and they can continue, and they can also run. Exceptions are the ones who are in the office right now. After you, write the law and say after us, whoever wants to take this office has to have at least a state level master's degree and federal level a PhD. Believe me, you want these people in those positions. Those positions are people who go after education, become a little more, I want to say, honorable, because they're after education, they're after information. People who are after information don't need cocaine parties. People who like information are the nerds who are uncomfortable in cocaine parties. You want that. You really, for your people, for the sake of your people, you should want that for your people, that their representative be the nerdy kids, the ones who like information and have gone the route of education and therefore have attained some sort of better perspective on life through education, and a little, more going with the brain than the guts kind of guy. People who, go for more information eventually because they understand that, it's better to, when making a decision, go with your brain, not your gut. As Mr. Bush so clearly put it, that he's a gutty kind of guy. He goes with his guts. You don't want such presidents. Such president, guts is usually wrong. Brain is right, guts is wrong. That's because making a decision is a function of, it's a deductive function. It's a deductive function. You pick up the information and make a decision. And you do a bit of thinking. That part has to be present. The guy goes with the guts is basically telling you, I didn't do any deductive reasoning. I took a shortcut. I went for heads or tail. That was my gut. You don't want such representatives, folks. You don't want that. Democracy will not work like this. Where we are right now in the world, at the level we are, the best way forward is either direct democracy through internet. Citizens vote for every bill individually, every law, local and federal, individually, or raise the level of representatives. Master's degree, PhDs, and 2 PhDs. Love you, Uncle Sam.